All right, guys, welcome to the Investor's Guide to Memphis Real Estate. My name is Dean Harris. I'm the Vice President of Crestcore Realty. This podcast, the Investor's Guide to Memphis Real Estate, it's a podcast where we give out-of-state investors the boots-on-the-ground knowledge they need to be informed, savvy, and win in that Memphis real estate game. As always, I'm joined by Douglas Skipworth. Douglas, you're our founder, principal broker of Crestcore Realty, property management. You got about 50 hats. You're also our largest client, so it helps to hear that side of the table from you as well. Yeah, so thanks. Great to have you.
Appreciate it.
My email is dean@crestcore.com. If you have any questions about anything we're talking about today, please feel free to send me an email. If you'd like to get on our buyers list, our mail out of our houses, dean@crestcore.com. I always help clients sell, buy, whatever it is you need to do. That's kind of my main focus every day. Mm-hmm. But then I jump into this podcast, right? Yeah. All right. So last week, man, we did the infamous zip code breakdown. And we are going to start releasing that to you guys today, which this will come out in a little bit. Today's the 17th of August. So we will get that out probably starting to drip today and then begin dripping every few days. So, or even every day, some of it. If you want that breakdown with all the links and all the stuff, email me, dean@crestcore.com, and I can get all that to you. Super popular
super informative
show that we do every year, and super informative. It really is a breakdown. Douglas and I have so many years of experience here in Memphis. Just being able to talk about those zip codes has been a real asset for our clients.
Oh man, it's great. It's great for us, man, just to talk through it and hear it and see and drive them. I mean, all the things we've been doing. So it's great.
I'm going to give you a real quick update before we dive into today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about how to keep your rental property at the market rent. But first, I want to give you just we'll start doing this periodically, a quick update from chandlerreports.com. We got a lot of our information for the zip code breakdown from Chandler Reports, so you can visit them at chandlerreports.com. July real estate update. I'm just going to read this for you just to give you kind of an overshot of where they believe that we're at come mid-year. Home sales activity for Shelby County fell 17% in July, with 1,955 home sale recorded compared to 2,343 in July of 21. So we took a 17% dip. Despite that drop in home sales continue to rise, with home sale prices continue to rise, with prices up 5% in July, with an average of $258,000 compared to July 21's average of $245. So we're seeing the number of sales go down, but we're seeing the pricing stay flat or rise up a little bit because that demand.
Especially compared to last year, month to month, I think it'll start flattening. Go ahead.
I agree. The median sales price was $215,000. 20% of home sales recorded in July were valued under $100,000, which is crazy for our market. That was about half a long time, not
right, yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. Now it's so much lower. Home sales valued over $300,000 were down 12% in July, with 629 sales compared to 718 last year. There were 16 homes over $1 million. This isn't really us. Year-to-date number of home sales recorded is up 2%, and average sales dropped 12% compared to the same time in 2021. So all in all, everything is still strong. Prices have flattened off a little bit. Maybe in some little pockets they're still kind of going up, but it seems like what we have been talking about for the last month and two has been holding steady. Yeah. So it is what it is. There's going to be, it's still a challenge to get a good property, but it's not nearly the challenge it was 4 months ago, 6 months ago, 12 months ago, right? So when you offer on a house now, instead of it being 8 investors offering on it, half up for cash and half of them don't want to inspect it. Yeah. There's about 3 people on it. So maybe your strategies of, offering some concessions and different things that you normally wouldn't do might work now because there's not as many people in there. Yeah. So great topic and great. I just wanted to give you guys that update. I'm going to temporarily or periodically do that for you guys. So today, let's jump into this today. So we're going to talk about how to keep your rental property at the market rent. This has been, over the last 12 months for me, a fairly big topic because of the people that are looking to sell. And because we are going to see
if they sell
more people
at occupied property.
Yes. And we're going to see more in the next 6, 9, 12, 18 months that are going to have to sell. I've been telling you guys this for some time now. You've heard me the example of the guy with 4 houses. One needs 25 in rehab. He doesn't have it. The other one's going to stop paying rent. Now his 2 rental checks that are coming in are barely covering the mortgages. He's going to have a water heater go out on one of these. Now he's in the red for the month. How long is he or she going to deal with that? They're going to come to me and they're going to say, Dean, sell this for what I bought it for. And it's going to sit there for a few weeks and they're going to, with no activity, and they're going to say, okay, let's lower it. Okay, let's lower it. And then eventually, if it doesn't sell, they're going to say, give me what I owe. Let's just get out of here.
Yeah.
So to help me help you, you need to listen today pretty closely. This is very important. It's not going to be but a 25 or 30 minute podcast maybe, but it's very important. If you're going to be selling in the next few, I would say maybe even 2 years, you need to start working on what we're going to talk about today, which is getting your rental property at market rent. What's the first thing? Go ahead. Add to that, please.
Add to that. All I would say is, yes, if you're going to sell it in the next 2 years, be thinking about this. But it's also, if you're going to keep it for the next 20 years, be thinking about this, because you're leaving money on the table.
Great point, which is maybe just as important or just as valuable as what I'm going to tell you. That's great. Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
For sure. All right. So what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of a task or a duty that you need to do to make sure that your investment property is gathering the market rent?
So for me, what I'm thinking about is keeping up with the current rent, understanding what the market rent is, and then B, doing the things to the property that keeps it at market rent worthy.
Yep.
So those are the two things that pop to mind.
Yeah, that to me is, in that part of my thinking with this it didn't necessarily have to do with the house, which is maybe something I didn't think about. So I'm glad we don't usually talk before this, FYI, and that on purpose.
Yeah.
We don't want to come in here and give you the same data. We want you to get two different points,
or be too scripted. Blah, blah,
or be too
so
scripted.
This is great. A real conversation.
I did not think about that, and that's awesome. Yes, you need to be prepared to have the house ready. I can ask you for a loan, but if I don't give you a business plan with it, what's the difference? You know what I mean? So I can ask for some more money, but if my house isn't in that great a shape or up to the standard of a X rental, then it's going to be tough to get it. So there you go. First thing I would think about then, mine was to stay in touch with the market and know the trends, and specifically know your market trends and what's going on in there.
Yes.
That goes hand in hand with keeping the home in great condition, or in at least marketable condition, if you want market rent.
If you want market rent.
I know some investors, no kidding, they'll let that thing go to yes, and they don't mind lowering the rent so they don't have to do a rehab. I think it's a horrible business plan and a horrible way to run your rentals, but some people do it. So that to me is stay in touch with your market and stay in touch with the tenants on your street. I know a guy who goes and knocks on a couple of doors on the street and talks to other tenants and says, hey, I own a few on this street. What do you like? What do you not like? What are you paying? Really all he wants to know is what they're paying, but it kind of gets around in other ways. But just know where you're at and what drives your zip code. Like, I think that's great too. Like, what is the job driver in your zip code, right? Like, can you afford, or can you realistically ask for another $150, right? Even if it says the market rent's $1,000, like in that specific pocket, do you get that? So knowing your market and knowing the trends in your market of, hey, there's a big job loss over here. Rents are going to drop. They just added Blue Oval to Brownsville, so Bartlett and Lakeland and Arlington and all this is going to skyrocket here in the next 10 years, so 20 years. So that's kind of what I mean by know your trends and know your markets for that. What else?
And I would say it's easier to keep up with that stuff even if you're not local.
Big time. The newspapers and things like that can help educate you.
Online media, as well as, and I know you got some note in here about the Zillows of the world, the other resources that allow you to see what other people are renting properties for in the neighborhood, or what they're going for, what the asking price is.
Just being aware of those tendencies, I mean, of those God, I think it's almost really good to know the tenants' tendencies too. Like, what are their daily activities and what are they doing and where are they going? Like, what kind of person are we renting to? So all that goes in hand. And I always say this too. Number 2 on my list was never renew a lease without, talking to your leasing agent, property manager. And really, I'm telling you to go up every time. And here's what I mean by that. Like, Let's say in 2021 you rented a property, or even 20. You've had a tenant there 2 years, and last year in 21 you didn't go up. So now they're paying $850 from what they were paying in 20. Well, I got news for you. That $850 rental is probably an $1,100 rental right now.
That's exactly what that's saying.
So you're missing out on $250 in rent times 12 is $3,000. So you're missing out on, and if you got 10 of those, we can do the math, right? That's $30,000 you're missing annually on your rent. Does not take long for this to add up, right? I mean, think of your portfolio or mine. If we didn't pay attention to this, we're talking large amounts of money that aren't being collected. So to me, never renew a lease, never just accept it. If the tenant, let's say you're in the situation where your tenant does not and refuses to go up, they really don't want to move out. You for some reason don't want them to move. Maybe you can't afford that rehab right now. Maybe they do pay on time. Maybe there's some factoring going into that. Go up something. Go up 50. Hell, go up 25. Like, do something, because of, that will at least slow your demise.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's coming. If you keep doing that and don't get market rent, your demise is coming. But go up $40, $50. Ask if it's a 250 gap, ask them to meet you in the middle. Like, get something. If you don't want to move it out. To me, right now, with all of mine, I'm not giving that option. It's pay the market rent
or move on.
You're gonna have to move on and vacate. So I'm not giving that option. But if you're that person that doesn't want to do the rehab, or for whatever reason there's a relationship with the tenant or whatever, go up something. $25.
Yeah. And oftentimes when it comes to renewals, because we're talking about two different things. We're talking about renewals and we're talking about new vacant properties, rehabs. A lot easier to get market rent when a property goes vacant.
Yes.
Do a rehab, and you can judge based on where the market is, what you want to do. You want to be above the market, you want to be at the market, you want to be below the market, and determine the type of repairs you need to make.
That's right. Because if you don't, it's hard to justify going to that tenant. Unless the home's in good shape anyway, it's hard to justify and go to that tenant saying, hey, we're going up $250.
And I'm talking, like on a vacant house.
Yeah.
Here's a vacant house. So that's
much easier.
So much easier to get market rent, and you're so much more in control. I mean, you're always in control, but it's a lot easier over here when you have an occupied house and it comes to renewal. You just have more variables, and so a lot of things that I look at is how long have they been there?
Yeah.
What is their payment history? What is their maintenance request history? Is it legitimate, or is it, superfluous, above, just kind of.
The lights don't work, but I hadn't checked the light bulb either.
Yeah, pie in the sky kind of stuff. They want a pristine property, or is it like, hey, they're realistic? So, I mean, I kind of do some calculus on all of that to determine, hey, is it worth, to your point, going all the way up to market rent, or is this a tenant that is valuable to me at less than market rate because
XYZ.
Because XYZ.
Yeah, whatever reason
XYZ,
that you have.
Whatever reason you
is there
have.
a value there?
Yeah.
I can see that. I mean, I've had a guy tell me that.
Yeah.
Hey, he could go up $100 on rent. But it's a older lady. She's on a fixed income. She pays on time. The house is in great shape. So he's like, hey, I'm going to leave her at 8, or I think it was 9. I'll leave her at whatever her rent is. I'm not going to raise it up. If you tell me that, I'm kind of with you. If there's a $300 gap there, though, man, that's a lot to be just leaving on the table. But if it's smaller, shorter, and there's some reasons that you want to have her stay there, or her stay there, then I understand.
Yeah. So I mean, that's just some other things I look at when it comes time to renewal.
Because and on that, every one of these is a case by case basis, right? Every one of your homes is a case by case basis. I don't think you can portfolio wide paint of everybody, like paint a one brush paint of everybody in there. They're all different. They all have different things that's going on. So I just treat them as individuals.
And it doesn't take a long time to just review that stuff and to make a decision. And to your point, basically part of what you said is, and we've said this a bunch of times, there is no such thing as passive income. It's just less active. So you just have to spend 5 minutes instead of spending 40 hours a week. This is less active, but you have to pay attention and you have to make some decisions.
Yes, 100%. My advice too is also not to sign a 24-month lease right now, you might disagree. I because of the way that the rental market has been changing, I'm hesitant on advising people to lock into 24 months. It might cost you a few $1,000s if that's the case, because I do think rents in some areas are going to continue to rise a little. I don't think they're going to continue to jump like they have for the last 18 months, but I do think they're going to continue to rise. If someone comes to you and says, hey, I'll pay market rent plus $50 if you can do 24 months rent, well, I mean, they're fairly savvy. They know what's going on too. Maybe you sign that one, but I'm advising not to get into 24 months. I'm not signing any 24-month leases on mine. I'm advising on 12 months so you can reevaluate what's going on. And then, by the way, like, well, isn't it better to lock them in? I mean, like, let's be honest. You've got to deliver for the tenant, right? The house has got to be in great shape or good enough shape. So if you're doing your job, you don't really care if they move out anyway, because if it's a difference, and you'll just find another tenant for that to pay that rent. The house is in good shape. You're keeping it there. So I'm advising on not against 24-month leases. I don't know how you feel about it.
I when it comes time for renewal, which is where most of this falls, is, I look at those things: how long they've been there, what's the payment history, what's the maintenance request history, how to feel about this property, what's the market rent. And so I will occasionally give maybe oftentimes I will give the 12-month or 24-month option.
Okay.
So I don't go with 30. I don't go anything more than that.
Yeah.
And there is a month-to-month option. I don't love that, but they pay for it.
I don't love it either, but I agree with you. It goes
so as long as they pay in those different buckets, and I feel good with what I'm getting and can lock into that, I'm okay with that.
I have a lot of investors ask me like how we determine market rent. That's a huge question, right? And I know I have a way. I'm going to start with you. I've been starting on every one of these. When you determine market rent, what are some of the tools you use to determine that rent?
Again, I use a Zillow type for just some ballparks out there to see. There's some other apartments.com and we've got some internal data. We've been doing it a while and look at bedroom counts, look at bathroom counts. So to see what the neighborhood is. You can also look at the 1% rule based on what the value of the home is.
Yeah. Explain what 1% is. 1% rule for those who aren't.
Great point. The 1% is a rule of thumb that typically, or in general, properties rent at 1% of their value per month. So a $100,000 house in general should rent, for a 1% rule, is $1,000 a month.
Yep.
So $80,000 house, $800, $200,000 house, $2,000.
Yep.
So I look at that the value. So again, triangulate, do some things to kind of say, hey, where should I be in a range? A range, and then figure out where it's best to be in that range.
So I immediately go to two websites. I go to Rentometer,
that's right.
RENTOMETER.com. And I go to Zillow. Zillow has been wishy-washy for me, and the reason why is because for the longest time, you could post a free ad about a market house, a rental house, and you could post that it rented for X, right, with anybody. Then Zillow decided to switch it to a paid process or paid advertisement on the owner's end, $15 or $30 or whatever it was, to pay to put your rental properties on there. Then it got super accurate, right, because you're not going to be going on there trying to influx a rent, paying $20. It got real accurate. Now we're coming back to where they've decided not to charge people to put it on there. So I'm holding some value still in the Zillow rent numbers, but I'm losing faith again in it. It's like the girlfriend that comes back and everyone in our industry can't stand Zillow. Then all of a sudden, they're doing a few things that we like, and now they're back again to where it's like it's borderline useless. So Rentometer has been a constant for me. The real test, your leasing agent.
Yeah, cool. Okay,
duh. Your real test is the leasing agent.
Yes.
And at your property management company. And if it's here, Miss Debbie, I just talked to her before I came in.
Yeah.
Super sweet. She'll give you an idea. Or if you're with another management company, go to your leasing agent and say, hey, 123 Main Street, can I get X for it? And just see what they say. I mean,
good point.
They're going to really tell you, right? I mean, like, and some people
that's what they do all day, every day.
Yeah, some people verify and check even before they buy a house. So
yeah, that's
your
good.
leasing agents. I mentioned the guy at the very beginning. He knocked on doors and asked tenants what they paid.
Yeah,
I mean, just
good.
depending on your level of interest on getting the exact rent. So that is how we determine the rent and how we believe. And then lastly, I'll say we manage, I think, 1,500, 2,000 houses somewhere in that neighborhood. I believe we're going to have a house in the area.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to have a 3-bedroom in Raleigh if you're looking for it. We're going to have a 2-bedroom in Berkeley, and we're going to have 3 and 4 bedrooms in Whitehaven and everywhere else all over the city. So there's another way that you can go do that is, the leasing agent then ask, hey, what comps are you actually managing? And that should give you a real strong indication of the market rent.
Yes.
Let's talk about the significance of raising the rent. And this is kind of my last big topic, and then we just kind of roundtable it. But let's talk for a second about the significance of raising the rent and how it can affect your portfolio value. So to me, this is just as important as the first thing we said was stay in touch with your market and knowing trends, because if you're going to be faced coming up with the challenge of selling some rental properties, one of the biggest questions that a buyer has, and one of the first questions a buyer has on occupied properties is, how much are they paying in rent? Mm-hmm. And when does their lease run out? So I get that question first on every buyer that is looking at a property that's occupied. Literally, it's maybe the first question.
Yeah, of course.
And if it's $1,000 rental, and I come to that guy and I tell him it's rented for $700, but it's a good tenant, because this is the seller, but it's a great tenant and I didn't want to go up on them. They've been there for 5 years. Big red flags. 5 years, that means there hadn't been any rehab done in 5 years. 2, that means that tenant is almost 100% going to move out when you tell them that you're going to raise the rent to $1,000. So now you're going to have maybe some rehab that you weren't looking at, the buyer is, and they're going to maybe run from you. You as the seller, you're sitting there going, well, wait, I got a decent house, but you don't have a decent investment. The house might be in okay shape, might be in a good rental pocket, but if you're below market rent and they've been there for a long time, the sellers think that's appealing, buyers think it's terrible.
So true. That's my experience as a seller and
a buyer.
As a buyer,
when you go in yourself, you look at it. If they're way below $50, okay. If they're 300, 200, 300 below the market rent, there's a problem. He didn't want to raise it because they didn't want to move out, or he's not running his business the right way, which means he isn't running the rest of them the right way. So see, there's a big stigma with that other sellers and buyers, or really sellers, aren't paying as much attention to.
100%.
Right. So when I say it affects your value, that means that he's going to come in and offer you, instead of 100, he's going to offer you 80.
Yes. Yeah.
Because he's got a tenant with 8 more months left.
That's
and
right.
He's missing out.
Because it's an investment.
Because it's an investment property. So to me, one of the biggest things is you're going to be faced one day with doing this. Like I say, I'm going to keep them till I'm, gone and give them to the kids. And maybe that holds true. There also might be a day where someone comes and offers me so much money, I got to say yes.
Or you sell one of them.
Or even if you're not selling the whole package and you're selling one, because each one of these are separate.
They're all different investments.
It's going to be affected.
And that's more likely that you, for whatever reason, say, I want to get this neighborhood I don't enjoy. It's not for me. And you try and peel that off, and you're stuck with a below market rent, and you don't get the value that you should or could.
Every month, the hole gets deeper. You think you're doing a good thing by taking that $700 rent, and you're going, it's being paid for. What you're not really thinking about is that you're digging a deeper hole every month with condition, market value. It's all going down. It isn't sliding down.
No.
But it's a tick every month.
Yeah.
That you don't have that market rent. Your condition goes down. The value of it goes down every month. So very, very, very important to me to make sure that, to wrap this one up, to make sure that you are paying very close attention to the market that you're in for that market rent. It's got to be in the main thought process of your portfolio. You've got to be thinking about this. Like, just as much as you pay your note every month, and just as much as you answer maintenance requests every month and you're all over it, every single time you have a vacancy, you need to do research. And the folks at Crestcore, when they come with that, hey, this is our suggestion, they're usually right where you want to be. Sometimes even that though, you need to check that too.
Yeah.
With any management company,
Sure.
it's an opinion.
Yeah.
I could tell you, if you asked me to look up a comp, I could give you a price. If you ask 10 agents,
Right.
you're going to get 10 different prices.
That's right.
I bet you wouldn't get the exact one. So
Yeah.
make sure you check a few outlets. Make sure you go with a few people on suggestions of what the market rent. My team will help. Our leasing department, Debbie's happy
Indeed.
to help. So I'm thinking the topic's important. I mean, you've got a ton of these. So how do you look at this?
I think you just you said it, because it's a buyer and a seller, right? If you're a buyer building a portfolio, or if you're selling, you've got to get this right. Because you talked about managing your income, you didn't say it this way. As a landlord, it's your only source. As a residential real estate investor, primarily single family homes, or even duplexes, small multifamily, that's your only source of income.
Yes.
Is rent. It's not like a big multifamily where you can charge other fees and get income on the property. Like, your only source of income is the rent. You've got multiple expenses that go with it, but this is the only source. So you've got to manage that, because it's the only way to increase the money, the cash flow from it. Only other way is to not spend money. So it's like, you got to be mindful of this, both as a seller in the potential future, because you want to maximize the value, but also as an owner, long-term buy and hold investor, because it's your only source. That's the only way you can increase the cash flow. That's the only way that you're going to be able to maximize the value of the properties over the long term to yourself, the cash flow. So it's such a pertinent topic and so under discussed.
We designed this specific podcast today for sellers and owners, but if you're a buyer, you need to look at it the same way. It's a different lens, but you need to look at it the same. You need to look at the same thing. Do I want to buy a house that is under rented and has been for a long time? Why? Right? Like,
maybe you get a deal on it.
Maybe you get a deal.
Rehab
that's
it
fine.
And get it. Yeah.
It's a different lens,
It's
but
a
you got
different
to
lens.
look at it the same way and say, okay, there's a reason why this hasn't happened. I need to look a little further and find out why. It could flat out be incompetence on the seller side, or it could just be
an opportunity.
An opportunity that you can come in and swoop up a good property from somebody that's
and you need to be mindful of it as you're managing your portfolio and doing all of those things to maximize the value.
Anything else you want to add?
Good,
Memphis, that is strong. I mean, that's good advice, and I feel like it's relative. We got a couple of minutes, but I'm excited about what's coming up for Memphis. I mean, I'm excited about what we're seeing right now. I mean, a lot of people are saying, "How can you say that?" Because the rates are going up, but I'll tell you, as an investor who's been in this a minute, and I'm gonna be in it for many more minutes. I'm okay with some interest rate hikes. I'm okay with letting the dust settle a little bit. I've mentioned this, but there's more opportunity for buyers now to get a property. That doesn't make sense because the rates are higher and the prices are up. But what I'm telling you is from just personal experience. I mean, this is all I do every day, all day. There are more buyers coming into the market to buy rental properties. The demand has not stopped. I'm getting calls and I'm getting interest every week. I'm getting new callers and new investors to set up calls. And I've got 2 today. I had 3 yesterday. So that's 5 early in this week of brand new people I've never spoken with that are ready to buy and learn more about it. So don't feel because you think this rate's going up and you feel like everything is halting, because it isn't.
No,
it's not halting. It's different. We had a team meeting yesterday with some leaders in the office. And that's one thing that I said was to another colleague. I just said, this is not changing. This is the life we're going to live in for a minute. So we all need to adjust the way that we're that meeting was for how we're working here. Yeah. This is for how you're buying and selling and how you're doing that. Like, you need to adjust to the time and figure out, am I doing this the right way still? Is this practice in my business still the right thing to do?
And relevant. Right. Yeah. Or do I need to make some changes?
Or do I need to change in way I'm buying or what I'm buying? I've changed what I'm buying.
Yeah. I've changed where I buy, what I buy.
Yeah. I've changed where I'm buying. I mean, there's a few areas, not many, but 1 or 2 that I'm like, not so much anymore. But there's a bunch more areas where I'm like, hey, this is different and this looks better. So You know, we talked a little bit about today about the market and about the market rent. But when I kept hearing market rent in my mind, I thought I need to give some updates on our actual current state of what's going on.
Yes.
And we, for a numbers thing, in July, I believe we closed 21 houses. And in August, I think we're going to hit about the same number, 21 or 22. So there's people buying homes, there's people buying investment homes, and they're getting decent deals and they're making it work. You guys have to understand that there's not 21 people that bought homes this month from me that those deals aren't working.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
I mean, those deals are
People
working
found
or they
deals.
wouldn't buy them. It's not as easy as it used to be, but there are deals out there. We're sending out about 20 to 25 different houses a day to our clients.
Yes.
They range from, $500. They range from about $700 rentals to $3,000, anything in between. So they're definitely getting some activity. There's going to be package deals pop up. There's going to be different opportunities coming up. So get your market rent straight. So if you have to sell, or if you have to sell, you're there. Or if you're trying to keep it, if you get to keep it, well then congratulations. You're going to make some more money that year for nothing. And it's exciting to me. Most of all my houses have gone up in rent, so the numbers are shooting up.
It's crazy.
So I've been paying very close attention to when those emails come across. Crestcore will send you an email if you manage here. I think it's 30 days before to renew, and this is what we suggest. Yeah. And then they're open for discussion. Like,
yeah.
Do you think
Often,
you can get this?
sometimes I'm like, I agree with your recommendation, and other times I'm like, hey, what about offering this?
Yes, and just see what happens.
Very
helpful, and they're really good with communicating with the tenants. Last thing before we go, if you do go up on your rent and your tenant immediately, no, encourage your tenant to call around and ask what another 3-bedroom, 2-bath with 1,200 square feet in that area rents for. I'm guessing 9 times out of 10, they're going to come back and keep your house. It's happened to me 4 times in the last 4 or 5 months on a renewal. They said no because it was a bigger number. They immediately went out. I know what they did. They immediately went out and started calling around because they got to move, or in their mind they're moving. They call around and they figure out that I'm right at market rent, and then they come back every time, and here's the sentence from management. Would you be willing to consider anything else? Now all they're trying to do is just get anything cheaper than what I'm offering. I always go back with $50 less and say if they'll sign today, that's what we do. And what happens? The lease is signed and we keep moving.
That's awesome.
Last bit of information for you guys.
That's
Anything
good.
else?
That's a great tidbit, man.
Man, thanks a lot for you guys listening today. We will be back here in a couple of weeks. We'll give you another topic to go for. If you have any questions, Dean@crestcore.com. See you guys soon.